Actually, I had another meeting with. I think I've just switched off from the meeting. There is another meeting which I was attending down in the boardroom. So I actually said no because time is very short with you. Because I've already compiled the questions for the exams. That's why I've left that meeting and then I want to attend to you. So that once I finish attending to you today, and then our last topic will be next week. So we are still continuing from where we stopped last time, and then you provided, I think, let's work together as one. You know Victor's office? Yeah, can you just go get my from Dumani? Should give you the printed material that I want. All right, let me start now. Yeah, just let's start. Last time we were looking at. I think we stopped. We went up to looking at the depreciation. Yeah. No, I think I just started on the depreciation. Um, the depreciation method. All right. We did a lot last time. We did a lot because we had to look at the selling price, the profit percentage, the selling price, that yeah, the loss. That's what we did last time. But today, let me start from again. We had to find the markup. I can say that the markup is the profit, the markdown is the loss. I actually said about that. Today, I will just start from the depreciation. I will just start from the depreciation. Once I'm done with the depreciation, then I'll go to another area, which I think is again of very, very important. It's very, very important. Just for a minute, as we are waiting for that friend of ours, these people who are this side, can you just come and then you occupy this because I want to be using this board? Huh? You can see? All right, good, fine, thank you. And again, you can see what will be happening here. I thought maybe if you sit this side, that would be much better. From this one, I think if you come and sit around here, that would be much better. But if you are able to see, I'm not worried. Let's start with the depreciation. All right, we are looking at depreciation. Depreciation. Right, good. Fine, thank you. All right, good, thank you. Depreciation, all right. You haven't been okay. So the depreciation, we actually said when we look at depreciation, it is just a continual loss of value of an item. We learned that last time. And we looked at the two methods of depreciation. We looked at the first one, which is the fixed. It was what is called the fixed installment, which is the straight line or original cost method, that one. And the straight line or the original cost method, that one. And the second one is the diminishing balance, or sometimes it's known as the reduction balance or the reduced balance method. Two methods. The way you work out using fixed installment, you will discover that it is different from the way you can apply to the diminishing type. So these are the two major types of depreciation. So we are looking at it in terms of these two. We are looking at it as a fixed installment, and we've got the diminishing balance, which is sometimes known as the reduction cost. The first one, the fixed installment or the straight line or the original cost method, I think that one is the one that we use the formula. Let's now start it from there. The first one is the one that we actually say the annual installment, where we had to say annual installment is equal to which is annual installment, all right, is equal to the cost minus scrap what value over expected lifespan in years. Lifespan, that is years, right? The cost minus scrap value over expected life in years, which is known as something like D is equal to C minus scrap value, right? Scrap value over L, which is years, right? Whether you put L, no problem. Where E is no problem. So where C is the cost of the asset, SV is the scrap value, and L is the expected that. And D is the amount of annual depreciation. The amount of annual depreciation. So amount of the asset after n years. So we are saying that the amount of depreciation after n years, amount of depreciation after n years is equal to C minus what? C minus ND. C minus ND. We looked at that. And then, but for the diminishing balance value, because when we look at diminishing balance value, that one is the one that we use what is called the compound. Compound is the same as compound interest, right? You remember that one, right? So the diminishing balance. So this is the what is called. This is the straight line. The straight line or the fixed installment. So fixed installment method. Fixed installment, which is sometimes known as straight what? Straight line, right? It's this one. You use the formula. But where you use what is called the diminishing value, diminishing or reduced balance. So in diminishing or reduced balance method, reduced balance method is you use the same as you use what is called the compound what? Compound interest, right? The way you use compound interest, that's the way we do that, right? So like you find the first year, then you subtract up to, and again we did this so that sometimes assuming that the number of years is a little bit very big, is why you use this one, that depreciation of the asset at the end of the nth year is equal to, so depreciation after the end of nth year is equal to C open bracket 1 minus R to the power N, where C is the cost, right? Where C is the cost, 1 is the ordinary one, and R is the rate, right? R is the rate, and N is number of what? N is equal to number of years. And actually, we sorted it out that assuming that the number of years is 20 years, you can't use the method of compound interest as you are saying, because the number of years will be so long So for you to calculate, I actually said it may take you ages. So why can't you use you can use the formula where I see bracket 1 minus r to the power a. Please, I wanted to, at least I was just trying to revise. We did this last time. I still now recall that we did this last time. So please, can you look at this? Because sometimes in your exam, I can say, I can give you like that an example could be like calculate the annual depreciation of this for this amount at 12 years or something. I'll be saying you use either you can use diminishing or reduce balance method. So if I say use the diminishing or reduce balance method, what I want you to use the diminishing of this one. Sometimes I'll be directing you that can you use fixed installment or straight line. So you have to use the fixed installment or the straight line method. So the way you use it, I think I'll be able to specify, can you use this method? So you should be able to use the method that I'll be saying, can you use this? Can you use this? So please make sure that when I ask you to use the diminishing balance method, you have to use the diminishing balance method. If you use the first one, that is totally wrong, because you have not understood the instructions. The instructions will matter very, very much. Use the diminishing value, you use diminishing value. Use this, you use that. Right? So this is where we stopped last time. If you were here last time, we stopped at this. Right? But today, now we are going to another area. If you happen to have your handout, we are now looking at mathematics of finance, and this is unit 3. So if you better with your phone, go to unit 3, mathematics of finance, which is unit 3 of our discussions. Now we are going to unit 3 of our discussions. Before we go to unit 3 of the discussions, do you have questions or observations? We are now going to unit 3. I'll do it fast. Maybe today we will finish the whole unit 3, so that maybe next time we'll go to another unit. So I think it depends. Let's now start our lesson, unit 3. Right. All right. Unit 3. Financial mathematics and quantitative mathematics is also known as mathematical finance. This what we are looking here is sometimes referred to as financial mathematics, or sometimes it's called quantitative mathematics, which is in one term it's called mathematics of finance. So it is just a field of applied mathematics that deals with the financial markets, right? So we'll look at that, and then this unit will comprise of the following topics: 1, interest; 2, simple interest and its computation; 3, compound interest and its computation; 4, compound amount. So we'll look at that. The objectives, by the end of today, I want you to 1, learn about interest, compute simple interest and compound interest, and you should be able to compute amount. So I wanted to look at these issues today. Let's start with interest. Now we'll look at interest, but we will look at the interest from your understanding of what interest is all about, from your background of interest when you were in primary school. That's what we are doing now. I've switched off from the secondary school, but now I'm taking you to this issue where you had this interest from either primary or from some other or secondary part of secondary. Now, interest. All right. What about interest? What comes in your head? We talk about interest. What comes to you in your head? Which scenarios you can get an interest? What comes in your head? We talk about interest. The second question would be, is interest the same as a profit? All right. So I wanted to find out what comes in your head when we talk about interest. What is this interest? Is interest the same as profit? Huh?
Okay. If I want to borrow money,
yes.
And the person president, I should pay 20%.
Uh-huh.
To the money I borrow.
Uh-huh.
To the person who is lending me money, it's his or her profit. It's my interest. For the money I borrowed. Let's say I borrowed 100 watches for the interest of 28%. Then I'll pay back 120 watches. So 20 watches for him is a profit.
It might be something like that. Therefore, but in actual sense, interest and profit, they are different. They might be, maybe the way you can apply it, they seem to be the same, but I look at it, interest and the profit to be very, very different. Because when we talk about interest, you get interest, and interest is obtained from the principal. From the principal is where you get the interest. After, and you are given time. Profit, you can sell something and you get profit today, right? But we talk about this interest is associated with the time, it is associated with the principal, and actually when you deposit money in the bank, what you are expecting is to get interest, right? Do you get profit or interest? The interest. Yeah.
When you are buying a shoe,
when you are buying
a shoe
to
a money shop, they say, okay, this shoe is cost 7,000.
7,000 was a shoe, yeah, right?
But I'll give you an interest of 500.
I'll give you an interest. Do they say I'll give you an interest?
No.
They'll say they'll give you a discount, not an interest. Okay, I know it's fine. All right, good. All right, now, what we are saying here is we are starting this interest, because for interest to be interested, there are several issues that we have to look at. One, we have to look at principal, time, and we have to look at the rate. So interest, this is what is called interest. We are looking at interest. As I actually said, we have to do fast, because if I delay, then we may extend. So I talk about interest here. We talk about the principle. We talk about the principle. We talk about time. And we talk about what? Rate. All right. We have got these three things here: principle, time, and rate. Now, if you say this principle is the amount of money that you are depositing for the first time. That is what is called what? If I have 500,000 kwacha and I deposit that in the bank, that is my principal, right? Because when I'm depositing money into an account, it can either be I want to get interest. You see, I'm not getting a discount, but I want to get what? Interest. Now, So the principal is the money, the first money that I'm paying into my bank account. If I'm depositing that one, and then the time for them to give me interest, it depends on the period that we are going to agree. Is it 2 years? Is it 5 years? So is it 1 year? So the interest is charged based on the time. But now when you look at the rate here, it is the percentage that you are given, right? They can say we will give you 5%, 5% as a rate from the amount. So that is again the part of the interest. Therefore, how do we find out? In other words, you can read from that principle is the amount of money you borrow. That's right. Time period is which, or I mean, you know, the period in days, months, years, and interest rate is a rate that is as a percentage from the principal per period of time. They are, for example, 3% per month, 5% per year, 10% per year. That is what is called the rate. Now then we can find now how do we calculate simple interest. Simple interest, how do you calculate simple interest? Simple interest, which is sometimes I can abbreviate it as SI. Simple interest is equal to principal times time times what? Rate over 100, right? So that is the principal times time times rate over 100. So this is the what is called the simple interest. In primary, we are saying PTR over 100, right? Yeah, we will look at that PTR, something to PTR over what? 100. That's how we do it. That's why I'm saying that sometimes I cannot talk much about that. So you know PTR over 100. For example, right? For example, they say you are let's go to this one that they are saying. Oh, right. Before I look at that one, if you find assuming this is interest, right? You have interest, right?
Yeah.
And this is the principal, right? Now, how do we find the amount? Amount is equal to interest plus principal, right? When you take your interest, the interest that you have obtained here, you are adding to the principal. What you are getting is the what? Amount. For example, let's look at principal is equal to 2,000 departure. Time is equal to 3 years. Rate is equal to 10%. Find simple interest. Simple interest is equal to PTR over what? 100. Interest is equal to PTR over 100, right? So this is the principal is what? 200, 2,000 times time, 3 years times rate, 10 over 100, right? So you do like this, right? So you take 20 times 60, right? 600, right? So 600 kwacha, right? 600 kwacha is your interest, right? Now how do you get amount? Amount, you take this plus what? 600. So amount is equal to 600 plus 2,000, right? Which is 2,000 and what? 2,600. This is your amount. All right? How do if amount is equal to interest plus principal, how do you find interest? Interest is equal to amount minus principal. If you have gone to Form 4, what is called subject of the formula, right? Right. Oh, good. Right. How do you find principal? Principal is equal to amount minus interest. You have to know this. All right. Now let's go to an example one. 3 years loan of 60,000 is issued by a bank. It charges simple interest at the rate of 12% per year. At the end of the third year, principal plus interest is to be repaid. Calculate the interest for 3 years period. And what was the amount which will be paid at the end of the 3rd year? That one's very simple, right? Simple. Your principal is 600, right? 60,000, right? Principal 60,000. Interest rate 12 what? 12% per year, right? And how many years? 3 years, right? Simple interest PTR over 100, right? Yes. So when you calculate that one, you can find the answer, right? To find the amount, you are adding that interest plus the principal. Clear? We can't take much of our time there. It's fine. It's done. Let's go to compound interest. Let's go to compound interest. Am I fast? No. Am I fast? All right. Right. Yeah, let's go to compound interest. Or maybe, but please, sometimes you should be able to understand the language which is there, because I will not take from the language that I am speaking. I may take the language that is there. So it's better you understand the language that is there. For example, they are saying simple interest is equal to PIN. What is PIN? Principal times interest rate times number of time per period to them. But even if you use my language, no problem. That simple interest is equal to principal times time times rate over 100. It's fine. It's the same, right? Or that maybe these ones, they know how they are to take need to be like that, right? That's why, like this example, which is example number 1. So let's just go to that example, maybe to avoid, we are at least others, we are coming from different schools, so I think we can help each other. I happen to mention, it's you are mentioning CDSS. So it's principal, that's saying principal is equal to 60,000, right? Yes. Let's put 60,000 watch. All right. Time is what? 3 years, huh? Yes. Time is equal to 3 years. And rate 12%. Let's find, the question is find the interest, right? Find interest. 1, 2, find what? Amount. Right? Find interest and find amount. How do we calculate interest? Interest is equal to PTR over 100. What is your P? 60,000 times what is your T? 3 times what is your rate? 12 over 100. So percent, this one, right? So multiply that and that one. Can you just multiply that? Multiply that. Multiply this. Use your calculator. You'll be using your calculator. Use your calculator. Start. 21,600. Okay. This is your interest, eh? How do you get amount? Amount is equal to principal plus interest. What is your principal? 60,000 plus 21,600. Then do what would be that? 621,600. Like this one, right? Huh? 82. Okay. 80 what? 81,600. Like this. All right. Yeah, that is what they have written there. That's what I'm saying. Okay, will not. Let's go to compound interest. Let's go to compound interest. Do we have problems here? Huh? I don't want someone here to fail this mathematics during my exam, because I think that will be now a problem, right? Yeah, because these are very simple issues, and then we have to work on that one, and then we can now see the way forward. Now let's look at the compound interest. Let's now compute our compound interest. Simple interest, we are done. I've told you diminishing what? Diminishing balance in depreciation, right? Good. I'm not saying Yabwera, but I'm just saying, please. Let's go to compound interest. I'm happy. I was worried that will I reach far like that? And I think the fact that so compound interest now. Compound. Now, let's define what is compound interest. What is the difference between compound interest and the simple interest? What is compound? The word compound, what is it? Something, the simple, opposite of simple is compound, right? It means something that is simple, it is easy, right? But something that is compound, there is an element of complication there. It's not something which is very simple, right? In other words, when you look at these two theories of compound interest and simple interest, you will notice that it is this compound interest which will take you time to understand rather than the simple one. Because something which is simple is easy for you to manipulate. It's easy for you to maneuver. You can work about it, no problem. But something which is compound, you have to take much of your time for you to reach to the final conclusion. That's what is called compound interest. Now, both are interests, because our simple interest is interest. Compound interest is interest. But the way how you calculate that one is now what we want to find out. Simple interest, you use the PTR of 100, right? But what about compound interest? Do we use PTR of 100? If you use compound interest PTR of 100, then that is not compound interest. That becomes simple what? Interest. Compound interest has got its own method of calculating that compound. Now, let's look at what is this. Simple interest is usually used in short-term borrowing, whereas compound interest is used for long-term what? Borrowing. We are looking at two types of borrowing is here, right? Short-term borrowing and long-term what? When we say short-term borrowing, it means the period is very what? Short. But long-term borrowing, the period is very long. In other words, long-term borrowing, you may borrow something because you want to use it for very big purpose, or you are borrowing it, you want to buy a house, right? You want to start a school. So the borrowing is a long period borrowing, right? So that the amount of money you will borrow, then there will be a huge sum of amount, and then it's going to be calculated using compound interest. Compound interest, it takes a number of years for you to do that. In other words, each and every element is being used in the compound interest. First year you use, second year you use, third year you use. So that is it. In other words, in compound interest, the principle for that year, when you are using the second year, you are going to use the amount for that period, and then you go on and on and on. Let's look at an example. Let's look at an example. An example. All right, before we go to that example, let me just read this. The interest chargeable to changing principal on every principal of the deal is known as the compound interest. See? Interest can be computed by compounding interest. Compounding means interest is added to the principal periodically for the intention of computing interest for the next period. The word there is compounding. Compounding means it is being accumulated, right? Compound interest is applied to loans or deposit accounts. All right. Example. Example. Suppose a person deposits 9,000 kwacha in a bank, which pays interest 9%, year compounded quarterly. All right. So he wants to determine the amount of money he will have on the deposit at the end of the year if all the interest amount are retained in the account as reinvested. Right. Right. Let's work out that one. Suppose a person deposits money into his account 9,000 kwacha. That is the principal, right? Principal first year. But now the interest that is being charged, it is 9% per what? Per year, compounded quarterly, right? 9% per year, but compounded what? Quarterly. Then he wants to determine the amount of the money he will have on the deposit at the end of the year if all the interest amounts are retained in the account as reinvestment. Let's work out that. Let's work out that. Want to find what will be the amount. But now this one, remember, this is a quarterly. Quarterly, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's not yearly, but this is the quarterly now. So the principal 9,000. All right. The rate is 9%, right? Right. 9%. If we are to use, so they are saying at the end of the first quarter, interest is computed as like simple interest is equal to PTR of 100, right?
Yes.
So the principal is 9,000 times rate 9, right? Right? 9%, right? Yeah. Which is 9 over 100, right? So it is 9,000 times 9, and this is the year is compounded quarterly. Quarter is just one quarter, right? Quarterly. So it is principal times time times rate. What is the principal? Principal 9,000. What is the rate? 9%. Quarterly, every quarter, right? Every quarter. And then when you do that one, PTR of 100, the simple interest is going to be 202 kwacha 50 ramba. That's the interest from the 9,000. Is it a problem? Can we work it out? Here, what they are doing there, I see, they are calculating that one using. We haven't gone to they are calculating this one based on simple interest. All right, they are calculating based because this is just quarter year. It's not a year. That's why they are using simple interest. Because if they had decided 3 years, that would have been another issue. 5 years would have been another issue, right? But because this is like a simple one, that's why what they are saying is they are just working the same. Let's work out like how many years are there. They are talking about quarterly, first quarter, second quarter, for the whole year. All right, and so on and so forth. Right. Second quarter is when they'll get to that one. Now, it's something like this. What is our principal? Principal is equal to 9,000 kwacha. Time 1 quarter a year, right? Rate what? 90%. 90%. So what it means there is it's the same as if you work out this one, it is interest is equal to principal times what? Time times rate over 100, right? The principal is 900 times 9,100 times 1/4. All right. So do like this. All right. So this one 810 divided by what? 4. This one 202.5 is this one, right?
Yeah.
This one, right? Then this is the first quarter, right? First quarter. Then we have to add it. We have to add this one to this one, right? On the amount. So we are coming to second quarter, right? So this is in other words, this is the first what? First quarter. Then our second quarter is equal to principal 90,000 plus 202.50, right? Add this one 9,202.50. Now we are using this one as again. All right, that will be our principal, that one, right? Now let's go to this one. Oh, this one will be our what? This will be our principal for the second quarter, right? Now let's go to second quarter. So interest is equal to principal times what? Times rate. Now what is our principal? 9202.50 times 1/4, right? Times rate. Rate is what? 9/100, right? Sure. So what do you do? You just take this, multiply by 9, divided by 400, right? Can you do that? Do 9202.50 multiply by 9 divided by 400. Do that. But are we together? Or I'm preaching something which is very different from the silence. The silence may mean something. Now I actually told you to bring calculator. Can let's work out this one? How do you do that? You have to work it out. What will be that? All right, 207 point. This is the what? What is this? Interest, right? Yes. This is the interest for the for second quarter, right? Yes. So the interest for the second quarter is this one. Now, if that is the interest for the second quarter, you can find the amount for the second quarter if you are to compute for the another quarter now, right? Yes. But it's simply because we are at least, if you look at that one, what we are trying to mean here is, what I'm trying to drive here is that what we are doing is compound interest, because we are just accumulating for another year, right? Right. Let's go to a usual example. Let me just give you this a usual example, so that maybe you should be able to appreciate what I'm trying to mean here. All right. I want to calculate compound interest. Want to calculate compound interest for 3 years. All right, for 3 years. Let's work out this one is an example, but now you are confused here. Let's go to where we can calculate compound interest using our procedure that we have been doing in schools. Let me do that. Work out compound interest on work out compound interest on I want you to work out right. Let's work out. When you look at, right, when you look at this example that we are working on, it was 1/4. How many quarters are there in a year?
4.
1/4, 1/4, 1/4, 1/4. There are 4 of them, right? Good. So with this one, first quarter you are calculating, all right? You get the answer, right? Then you take that interest plus, in other words, what you are doing there is this. You take principal first year, right? Principal first year, right? What was the principal first year? What was the principal?
9,000.
9,000. 9,000. All right. Then you talk about interest. Interest first year, right? So the interest is 90%, right? So you take 90%. 90% of this one, right? 90% of this one. Multiply by 9,000, right? But because you are using quarterly, that's why you are multiplying by 1/4, right? Right?
Yes.
That's why you are multiplying by 1 what? Quarter. And then you are getting, what was the interest? 202 and 50. You add. All right. Now this will be the principal. Second what? Second year, right? You add. So what you add is 9202 50, right? Right? And then from there you look at interest now. It is compound interest because we are taking the interest for the second one, right? We are not taking the interest from the same, but we are taking from this one. It's the same as if I borrow you money and then you say interest will be 5%. So every year. So you take the 5% for this year, you add it to what I borrowed. Then you are going to do that one again, you compute that one. That is what is called compound interest. You understand? If I borrow you money today, then you said 5% per year. It means after 1 year, you calculate 5%, you add it to that one. Which amount? The amount that you are supposed to pay, right? If you say, I don't have the money, why can't I take it and then you can do it again for the other year? It will be the same. Then what is happening there? You are not taking the first one, you are taking the amount that you are supposed to pay and you calculate that one. That's what is called compound interest. That's why here, second year, this guy was supposed to pay this as the amount. All right? But because he failed to pay, then we are calculating interest from this one. Right? So we call interest 90% times this one, right? 9202 times what? 1/4. What is that now? They got what? 207.05. You do like this. This is the first quarter, right? And this is the second what? Second quarter. But we want to find the year, for the whole year. What was the interest, right? Now, for this one, it was 9409.55, right? You know that? You have to know how to compute mathematics, right? How it's like that. Even if you use your calculator, it's going to give you that, right? Okay. Then this is the principal. Is the principal third what? Not third year. Principal first quarter, right? Right. And this one is principal second what? Quarter. We are using my quarters here, right? And here it is the principal third what? Quarter. All right. Now the principal third quarter is this one. What will be the interest? Interest is going to be 90% times 9409.55, right? And times 1/4, right? Do that. What are you getting? 211.71. We call 71, not 71. All right. And then from there, we do like, right? You add, right? When you add, what will be this one? 6, 2, 1, 2, 6, 9. What is this? This is the principal fourth what? Quarter. So the principal fourth quarter will be this. All right. Want to get the interest for fourth quarter? Let's go to interest fourth quarter. Interest fourth quarter. What will be the interest fourth quarter? 9,621.26 multiplied by 9 times 1 quarter, right? What is that? 216. Point what? 47. All right. Shh. It means this is the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and this is the fourth quarter, right? And this makes 1 year. You know that? Huh? 1 year. So for the 1 year, you add this one. What will be that? Here 3, 7. Here, what is this one? 7, 3, 8, 9. All right. This is what is called amount, right? This is the amount. You know that? Where we are stopping here, this is called the what? Amount. Amount is this one. How do we calculate simple interest? I mean, how do compound interest? Compound interest is equal to amount minus principal first what? First quarter. Good. Then subtract that. What will be that? We have 800 what? That one. Yeah? So we have what? Hey. We take this one minus this one. It's going to be 8. So it's going to be, our amount is 9837.73 minus 9,000. Then the answer will be 837.7 what? This is the. All right? Create. The way they have done that is the way. Look what the example here. What they have done there, right? 8. Yeah. Now the issue is what we are saying here is we are only using makota. We are not using years. Now let's look at another example where now we are using compound interest for years. Let's look at calculating compound interest for years. I'll give you an example. Let's go to an example. An example for years. All right. Let's look at this one. You're writing. You can write. It is there in your. You can refer to there the PDF one. Okay. No, I'll give you. Don't worry. I'll give you this paper. You can write it from the paper, right? All right. An example is this one. Example is calculate compound interest on 3,000 kwacha for 3 years at 5% per annum. Right? PA means per annum, right?
Yes.
Per annum means per what? Per year. Every year. The difference between this one and the first one, that one was just 1 year, but it was quarter, right? Right? Quarter, not even a year, because 1 year there are 4 quarters. But if you go to this one, they talk about 3 what?
Yes.
PA means per annum, every year. It is different from the first one. Now let's work out this one. The question would be, work out compound interest and simple interest. Let's work out compound interest and the simple what? Interest. And find out, let's find the difference between the two. Right? Let's start with the simple interest. What is simple interest? So simple interest is equal to PTR over what? Is this difficult? Huh?
No.
Okay. So the PT is what? 3,000 times time times rate 5 over 100, right?
Yeah.
Simple interest, right?
Yeah.
This one. All right. So 300 times 3, 900, right?
30.
30 times 3,
90.
oh, 90. All right. 90. All right. 90 times 5.
450.
Okay, good. 450. 450. Let's put this. This is simple interest, eh? 450.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
The amount he is going to pay is going to be 3,000 plus 450. Right? If it is simple interest, right? Let's go to compound interest. Compound interest. Compound interest, we start with principal first year, right? Principal first year is equal to 3,000, right? Let's put here 3,000 watch. Principal first year is 3,000 watch. All right? Interest is what? 5%, huh? So it is 5% of times 3 what? 1,000, right? In other words, this is 5 over 100 times this one, right? 5% is 5 over 100 times this one, right? Do like this, right? Is 15, 150? So it's 150. So you add it to here, right? 150, you add it there. Right? You add it. So when you add, it's going to be 3150, like this one, right? So this is our principal second what? Principal second what? Second year is this one. First year is this one. All right? Interest 5%, right?
Yes.
The same 5%. 5 over what?
100.
Times 3150, right? Aha. Work out. Just take this times this one, divide by this. It's what? Ooh, it's what? 3150 times 5 divided by 100.
157.5.
All right, 157.50. Those are interest, right?
Yeah.
Interest, eh? For the interest is this one. You add it. This is principal 30 what? Principal 30 year. Remember here 3 years, eh?
Yeah.
Okay. Principal 30 year, add the principal 30 year, add this one. 50, 70, 3. Interest for the 30 year, 5 over 100 times 3150. Oh, okay, yeah, 337, like 50, like this, all right? So you multiply, divide by 100, eh? What is it? 165.38. Good. All right. Huh? Now, where we are going is in fourth year, right? In other words,